Welcome to the 5 for 2 podcast with me, your host Adele, where we say no to careers where you're trading 5 days of misery for 2 days of fun. A place we discuss all things career, confidence, and money moves. I want to motivate, teach, and empower ambitious women to achieve more, earn more, feel more confident, and enjoy the work they do. It's all about believing you can have everything you want in your career and then going and getting it. So if you're ready, let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome to another episode. I hope everyone's doing good. This week we're going to talk about remote working and hybrid working and how you can get it even in this job market where they are reducing those type of roles. We've all seen it. They're reducing those roles. People need to get back in the office. I get the getting back in the office thing. I understand it more on a hybrid way than full-time. I don't think anyone who hasn't been full-time for how many years in these corporate roles needs to be full-time, but I do understand why there are some reasons that people should be back in the office, and I think hybrid can work, especially for the development of more junior staff and things like that. However, you guys know I work remote. I go into the office, I work 2 days a week, and I go into the office once a month maybe. Some months I don't go in at all. Because I'm a remote worker. So I only go in for specific things or if there's meetings or something that needs to be done because I'm obviously the manager and I need to make sure things happen. So that's easy for me to talk about and say like, oh, yeah, people should be hybrid because I'm not necessarily what you'd call a standard hybrid person. However, before this, I always was based in the office, whether that was 5 days, 4 days or 3 days. So yeah, I want to talk about this and I want to help you guys when it comes to getting remote roles. First, I want to start here. In a recent interview that I did, I was on someone else's podcast, the Money Gains podcast. If you've not listened to that interview, go over to YouTube, Spotify, Apple, any of those places where you usually get your podcast and have a listen. I talk about so many different things. And I know a lot of people have found that helpful. But in that interview, I shared how to negotiate remote work or hybrid working in a non-remote or hybrid role. And people were screaming. We got the people upset. And if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, you know I don't care if we get the people upset. I'm going to say the things that people are thinking, the things that go against the grain because I'm not traditional. I never have been. If I was traditional, I wouldn't have achieved the things I have in my career. I wouldn't have been able to help my clients achieve the things. Sometimes you're following a set of rules that random people have told you have to follow, when actually if you tried something different, you would get a different outcome. So we got the people talking, we got the people screaming that remote work doesn't, like if it doesn't say that it's remote on the advert, why are you wasting your time? You should only apply for a job if it's advertised as remote, because if it's not advertised as remote, there's no way you're going to be able to convince them to let you become hybrid or remote. I've been doing this, FYI, since about 2009, 2010. I can't even give you an exact date, but I've been doing this way before this was something that we could do. It started out me doing the hybrid thing, me doing the, do you mind if I, for the next 3 Mondays, work from home? That's how it really started for me. Like in different jobs, like I became an asset. I knew that what I brought to the table, I knew that I was delivering results, and I'd start off by asking small. Do you mind if for the next 2 weeks I work from home because my daughter has got something at school? Is that okay? They then said yes. Then that opened the door for me to negotiate more. I've been doing this, like I said, since 2009, maybe 2008. I don't even know how long I've been doing this for. So when I'm talking about things, not only have I either helped my clients do it or I've done it myself, but for the people that were like, it's a waste of time when you should just apply for a remote job, I agree to some extent. Why are we applying for jobs that aren't remote? If you want a remote job or you want a hybrid job, apply for roles that have that. However, there are less roles. So what do you do when there are less roles, or when you're already in a role that you absolutely love, but you're like, you know what? I could do this job 3 days a week in the office and 2 days from home. And I know it. Because that's in 2019 when I did that, when I first started to do things like this, that's what I did. I was like, ma'am, sir, I don't need to be in the office 5 days a week to give you the same results. And that's where I first ever was able to negotiate part-time hours for full-time money. And that's a whole different conversation. But what I'm saying is, when you start to identify that you don't need the hours to be there, or you don't actually have to physically be in the office to get the work done. Like sometimes I'm in the office and all day I'm doing Teams meetings. Why did I go in? If I'm doing Teams meetings, I can do them at my house and then I can get my other work done. If I'm not going to see anyone when I'm coming to the office, why am I coming to the office? I'm just in the building to be in the building. I'm wasting my time, your time. I'm commuting for however long. Just so that you know that I came to the office. Let's not waste everyone's time. However, there are times when you do need to be in the office. There are projects and things that need to be worked on that maybe you all need to be together, and Teams just isn't working. So yes, sorry, I went off on a bit of a rant, guys. However, like I said, we had the people screaming and we've got to address the people. If the role is advertised as remote or hybrid, of course, the best option is to apply for that type of role. The best option is never to apply for a role that isn't remote and then try and negotiate. Also, we do not try to negotiate at interview for jobs that are not being advertised as remote or hybrid. We don't then at interview try and negotiate. And we don't at screening call try to negotiate. If you're not willing to start the job off full time in the office, then don't apply at all. Because my method only works if you're willing to initially start off full time in the office or whatever their working pattern is. So, like I said, the best way is apply to remote jobs. And you know my motto, there's at least 10 different ways to achieve the same goal. So I'm always here to show you some of those ways. Plus, I just want to say something for the people that were screaming in the back. I bet half those people have never even tried the techniques that I talked about, but were ready to dismiss it. Because some people will always find a problem for a solution. I bet half of them have never tried. I don't like going back and forth. Even though it might seem like it. I don't like going back and forth. I do like a debate, so I kind of like going back and forth. But I don't like going back and forth with people who have never tried what they're telling me doesn't work. Because unless you have a crystal ball, there is no way you know. I'm talking about things that I have tried, tested, and done, and I have been doing for more than 10 years. I don't need to go back and forth with people because if what they're doing works for them, they should keep doing that. However, if you're listening to this podcast right now and you feel like the things you've been doing have not worked for you, you are struggling to find a remote role, you're struggling to find a hybrid role, then sometimes you've got to think about a different way. I promise you, the majority of the people that were screaming in the back, it will never work. We can tell they are not an asset at their job. And that's a whole nother conversation. A conversation we definitely need to have on the podcast, but we need to talk about, are you an asset? Like, are you an asset? Are you good at what you do? Are you hard to replace? Like, you must have listened to my episode recently where I talk about being hard to replace. Like, no one is irreplaceable at work, including me. I've been made redundant like before. So please know, I'm not saying I'm irreplaceable, but I know damn sure I'm hard to replace. I know damn well that companies have made jobs for me just to keep me. I know that companies have offered me more money to keep me. I know I'm hard to replace and I make myself hard to replace on purpose. So people that are not assets cannot relate to that because when you're an asset, you can negotiate close to anything. Not all things, but close to anything. I have talked to you guys about negotiating annual leave, pensions, commission, bonuses, car park spaces, lunch, like paid lunch. Why would you not be able to then negotiate hybrid and remote work if you've positioned yourself as an asset? Let's think about it logically. But I know that those people aren't assets, so they can't relate to this conversation that we're about to have. Like I said, no one's irreplaceable, but if you are hard to replace and you have made yourself an asset, it is always easier to negotiate things you want. If you've not listened to my episode about what to do in your first 90 days on the job so that you can start to position yourself as an asset, go and listen to that first and then come back to this episode because it will help a lot with this episode making sense. I have been in roles where I was the last one in, and you know that saying, last one in, first one out. Yet I wasn't the first one out because of the method I use, the 90-day method that I use, because of how I go in and from day one, I try to make myself an asset or I try to position myself in a way where people start to see a lot of potential in me. I remember going to a company once and I joined and literally a month after I joined, they decided to restructure the whole department. They were like, there was I think 5 people in the department. They were like, we're letting 3 people go. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been here 4 weeks, less than 4 weeks. I'm definitely going to lose my job. Like, what is going on? When I spoke to HR, like literally I panicked because I was like, oh my gosh, I've just left my job because come here because I've negotiated more money. And 4 weeks in, you lot are like, oh, we're restructuring. They had staff who had been there for years, people who had worked for them who had been loyal. Those people lost their jobs and I kept mine. I had been there less than 4 weeks. That is how much they were willing to bet on me. So, like I said, if you're not an asset at work, say that instead of saying that negotiating doesn't work. But for my listeners who do want to know how to do this and who have noticed a decline in the availability of hybrid and remote roles, this is what I want you to do. Like anyone who's struggling to land this is what I want you to think about. I want you to think about going in and taking the job as is. Like if you can't find a remote role and you need to find work, if you can't find a hybrid role, what are you going to do? You're going to wait for 6 months until you're out of money and then end up taking a job anyway that's full time. Like, no, I want you to think, how non-negotiable is that job? Now, there are going to be people listening to this that actually you can't work in the office. Like it's just not something you can do. This isn't for you. This is for people that it just is a preference that you want to work remote. It's a preference that you want to work hybrid. But actually, it can be a negotiable. It's adaptable. Like if you found the perfect job, perfect money, everything, you can work in the office. So start there. If you're currently in a job where you work full time in the office, but you want to see if you can negotiate 4 days a week, 3 days a week, a little bit of hybrid, let's see, this is for you. What I want you to do is think about all the things you bring to the table. You know that that's the first thing I tell anyone to do. First and foremost, what do you bring to the table? Why should they want to help you out? Because people will only help you out based on how you're helping them out. When it comes to your career, when it comes to corporate, when it comes to jobs, they will help you because you help them. How well do you help them? How much money are you making them? How much money have you saved them? Like, how much debt have you helped them like claw back? Like, what are you doing in your job that is impactful? Whether it's directly or indirectly, how are you impacting your company? We all impact our company, otherwise they wouldn't hire us. But you need to figure out how you're impacting them. And is your impact significant enough that they would rather give you what you want than replace you? If it is not significant, you need to start working on making it significant. And I've got lots of episodes you can go and listen to on how to do that. But if you are making a significant contribution, then it's time to have the conversation and say to your boss, listen, I know that this is a 5-day-a-week job, but there is at least 1 day every week or 2 days every week where I don't speak to anyone in the office, or all we have is Teams meetings, or my focus is working alone because I've got to get XYZ done. Like, explain it to them. You need to have a full plan. You can't just go in there willy-nilly. You need to have a full plan. You can't be waffling. It's got to be clear. Why is it that day you don't need to be in the office? Like, what are you achieving, but achieving solely on your own? You don't need to be visible in the business. Maybe it's that no one really comes in on a Friday, so you're like one of the only people in, like, and so that you can't have visibility with people. You're not able to have meetings with people unless you do it on Teams. You work with the senior team who are never in on those days, so everything you do is literally Teams and emails. You could do that from home. Then I want you to say to them, so you were wondering if you could have a conversation about possibly making the role hybrid and testing it out. So you're not asking for a permanent change. You're saying, for the next month or 2 months, can we trial me coming in 4 days a week? And if that works, then can we have a conversation about possibly making it permanent? If it does not work for any reason, I am happy to be back in the office full time. I do not have an issue with working full time. Your job is to make sure that it works out. Your job is to make sure, if you need to go above and beyond on that day that you're off to make sure everything gets done as it would when you was in the office, if you don't want to have to go back to being in the office 5 days, your job is to make it work. But you're making a suggestion because you're saying to the company, can we try something? You're not saying, I want this, I'm demanding it. No, can we try it? Listen, companies can always say no. But if you don't ask, you don't get. And if you don't ask, it's automatically a no. I'm not going to tell you this is going to work 100% of the time. Nothing we do in life is going to work 100% of the time. But even if it works for 50% of you listening, even if it works for 30% of you listening, that's 30% more people than who were able to do that last week or the week before or the month before. So sometimes, like I've said, it's not about thinking about, oh, you have to do it one way. It's about understanding that there are side doors, back doors, windows. There are 10 different ways to achieve the same goal. I have definitely taken jobs that were 5 days a week and turned them into hybrid roles. How? This technique, negotiating. My clients have done the same. It's actually easier when you've been in a job, not necessarily a really long time, but in a job for a while where they know you and they trust you and they value you. Are you valued? Do you hear things like, listen, I just need 10 Adeles. If I had 10 Adeles, my life would be so much easier. You see that praise right there? First time I ever heard that, I realized, oh, that's leverage. I can use that to get more money. I can use that to get more annual leave. I can use that for something. Because you're basically saying, I'm so good at my job, you would rather clone me. You want more of me. You don't even want to interview people that are different from me. You just want me on repeat because I'm that good to you. I'm that valuable to you. You are saying to your parts of the business, oh, when we're hiring, let's look for someone who's similar to this person or this person. If they're saying that and your name is being brought up, you are great at your job. You make a big impact. Because you make it in big impact, why not use that to your advantage? When you are an asset, negotiating becomes easier. And you'll be more successful at it because you've positioned yourself as someone who is hard to replace. Hard to replace shows up like this. They would rather give you a pay rise than go outside and have to hire someone else, like rather than lose you, because it's like, okay, what do you need to stay? You can have those conversations because actually the thought of them having to train someone, having to go outside, having to pay for advertising, pay job boards, pay recruiters, then get someone in who might not even be that good when you're already great at your job, they don't want to do it. But again, not everyone can relate. And if you're not an asset, you can become one. But if you can't relate, negotiating hybrid or remote in a job that isn't hybrid or remote isn't going to work. I don't believe in you going for interview and asking them, oh, is there an option for this role to be hybrid? You're not getting that offer. 90% of the time, you're not getting that offer. Why? Because they clearly said in the job, office only. Like they didn't say, oh, there's an option for hybrid. They didn't say there was an option for remote. So don't be asking that interview. If you go for the job, you go for it as it is on paper and you accept the job. What I'm suggesting is while you're in the job and you become an asset and you position yourself and you do all the right things, you renegotiate. It's no different from renegotiating salary. I wonder if the same people that would say that you can't negotiate remote have ever tried to negotiate their salary six months into a job, have ever tried to get more money other than the little 2% or 3% that the company tells you can have. I wonder if those people have ever had a pay rise that was more than what the company usually offer. I wonder if those people have ever negotiated a 20 or 30K pay rise. We are not the rule. Anyone listening to this podcast, we are not the rule. We are the exception. We will be the exception all the time. Just because 10 people couldn't do it, we'll do it. Because remember, there's always a way to have sophisticated career strategies and a sophisticated approach to negotiating. So who do companies view as assets? Just for a quick helping you out, just for a real quick rundown. I'm not going to go into it, but I'm going to break it down. People that make them money, people that positively impact their bottom line. Simple as that. That's the highest level of asset. Being an asset that's the highest level. Yeah. People that upskill their team so that the teams can make money. People that get them more customers or are able to retain their current customers and increase the business that the current customers do with them. Money. See, do you see how everything's leading towards profits? People that keep them compliant and stop them from having loads of lawsuits where they will lose money. If you're in a school, when you're a teacher, I've said it before, when you give your school a good reputation, when parents want their kids to be in your class, that is how you are an asset. So being an asset is important because it allows you the freedom to be able to negotiate these things. Remote and hybrid is no different from negotiating pension or annual leave. I've got hundreds of episodes on how you negotiate. And they all come back to letting people know the result you can deliver and then asking for something in return. If the thing you want in return is hybrid, then that's what you're going to negotiate. If the thing that you want in return is annual leave, like me, because you know I love annual leave, then that's what you're going to negotiate. So back to the start of what I said. Yes, if the job is advertised as remote and hybrid, of course that's the best way. Apply for those jobs. You don't have to negotiate. But if, like a lot of people that have come to me recently, you're finding it harder and harder to find roles that offer that, then this is the other option. Yes, you can be in a job 5 days a week. It doesn't mean it has to stay like that. That's like saying because you took the job and the job is paying 60K, for the rest of the time that you're at the job for the next 10 years, you have to stay on 60K. Absolutely not. If money can change, working patterns can change. If working patterns can change, pension can change. Like there's always things that can be changed. And it's not going to work for everyone. But if you're using the things I'm sharing, you got a way better chance. So I hope that's cleared that up for some people. I hope that's helped some of you out there who are trying to look for remote work or hybrid work and are really struggling and are just like, okay, I'm going to take 5 days, but I'm going to be unhappy for the next 10 years. No. Like I said, there's always time to renegotiate. Listen to the episode on your first 90 days in a role, because that will really help you on how to set yourself up in any job. And then also consider, how am I an asset? How can I now use this to my advantage to get hybrid, and have the right conversation? Remember, can we test it out? In 2 months, can we review it? If it's working well, can we keep doing it? If at any point it stops working, whether that's 6 months from now or a year from now, I'm happy to come back full time. Your job is to make sure it always works, so that never, ever, ever becomes an option. I hope this has helped someone. And if you know anyone who's currently struggling with hybrid or remote, send this to them, because hopefully it will give them some motivation, and hopefully it will help them to be able to ask in the right way. I will speak to you again in another episode. As always, drop your comments, let me know your thoughts, share on Instagram, on LinkedIn, share with people that you know that this might help. If you are looking to work with me in the future, my diary will be open again in September, because you guys know I'm taking off the summer. So September, I will be ready to go. So end of August, start booking your consultation calls if you're interested in working with me. And we can go from there. Speak to you in the next episode, guys. I hope this episode gave you exactly what you needed and motivated you to confidently take steps towards your next career move. If you enjoyed it, screenshot and share it on your socials, tag me on Instagram, and come join my community of amazing women working on leveling up their confidence and career. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.